The UK version of Storage Hunters, Storage Hunters UK, I would say there's some major differences between what we're doing here in the UK versus what we did in the US. Because, first of all, the market's much different. We're still selling, secondhand items, but what you can get for those secondhand items and what things are worth over here and what there's a market for in the UK isn't necessarily what we have a market for in the US. And the other thing too is that we actually find what I think are more interesting items here in the UK. You can find things with some real age to it. Whereas back, we're a pretty young country in the US. So you're never really gonna find anything, especially on the West Coast where I live in California, that's all that old. They might say that something from the 1960s is an antique. Whereas here, we actually come across things that could be quite old, very interesting. There's a lot of Victorian stuff that we come across that I find fascinating. So there's that element. And then there's also the element of the actual bidders themselves that are completely different than the American personalities. I was expecting Brits to be much more reserved, more, just kind of take their time. We have this image in our minds of British being very polite, sipping tea. I had no idea that you guys have a handful of maniacs and they all work in the auction business and they all come to my auctions. So yeah, I would say that I was pleasantly surprised to find that we have people with real personalities that are coming to these auctions. And when you see how they sell the items, when you see how they go to car boot sales or they go to these antique shows and stuff, and you realize the customers they have to deal with, it takes someone who can trump up that interest in their items. It takes someone with a big personality. So similarities, but definitely nowhere near being the same. And for me, it's always fun when it's something that's motorized or something that you could ride, or you know what I mean? And like the cool stuff. And I always try to get the bidders, if they find something cool like that, I always try to convince them to try it out on camera.